Hello.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Get Awesome.
Woo-hoo.
We are today on our inspiration call out, and the topic is striving for life balance. So we have a number of things to touch on related to that. So, Katie, I am, by the way, one of your hosts, Jen Drakes, the original goddess, and my co-host.
I'm Coach Katie. I'm a certified ULA life coach. I'm living down here in I would say the sunny South, but we've had not a lot of sun this winter. But I'm down in South Carolina. And thanks for joining us tonight. And if you hop on and you're watching us live, please let us know in the chat. If you watch us on replay on either the Facebook, YouTube channel, or Twitch, also please let us know that you've watched the replay. We'd appreciate it. Thanks and welcome.
Okay, so let's talk about striving for life balance, Katie. There's so much, and everybody looks at balance in a different way. But I think against the Ula looks at it against the seven Fs. And I know for me, I look at it in terms of aligning yourself as an individual and then all of the things around you. So we come at it from different perspectives, but we hold the same sentiments and thoughts are related to it, especially when it comes to mind, body, and spirit, which Ula puts under the fitness F. So maybe we can go through what the seven F's are, and if you want me to call those out, I don't mind because I've been paying attention. So there's fitness, finance, family, field, which is career, faith, friends, and fun.
A plus.
So we want to in this show really talk about to what degree those things are in balance in your life. And there's a way to go about checking that under ULA. And if you're in the Facebook group, we actually put the link into the Facebook group in terms of where you go, and you can double check on what your life balance looks like. And I do have mine pulled up. And what we could do is also share the screen, and then I can go through that and show you how that all works. But before we do that, Katie, why don't you go in and really set them up for why they should go and do what we call the wheel test, right? Like the life balance wheel test. So go ahead. You take it from there.
Okay. Think of the ULA. ULA is really a three-step plan. It's the ULA wheel, which is where are you now? It's the ULA plan, which is where do you want to go? And the ULA path, which is how are you going to get there? So tonight we're mainly going to talk about, or only talk about, the ULA wheel, which is where are you now? And so think of it this way. Anytime you're going any place where you don't know where you're going, you use your GPS, either in your car or on your phone. And what's the very first thing that the GPS system has to do? It has to find you. So it's got to find where are you now? And then you'll put in where do you want to go? And then your GPS will tell you how to get there. I read something interesting today in the ULA for Christians book. Let me back up a second. One of the things that the ULA guys always say is where you are is just where you are. It's not who you are, right? So it's just like a placeholder. So think of it again, go back to the GPS. When your GPS pinpoints where you are, it's not looking at your past. It's not looking at mistakes you've made. It's not making any judgments on you. It's just simply pinpointing here you are sitting at the intersection of Broad and Main, right? So the idea is in order us to move from where we are to where we want to go, we first need to know, where am I? And in ULA looks at the 7 F's, which Jen just went through: fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. And so it's looking at all of those areas of your life. And that's what the ULA wheel quiz is. It's a quiz so you can see where do I stand in all these areas. And so, sort of the idea is to become as balanced as possible. Now, we are not all balanced in all of those areas. So, so don't go into this thinking I need to be a 10 in all those areas, because I can tell you, you won't be, right? It just as I can assure you, you won't be 5s in all of those areas, because we are all stronger in some areas of our lives, right? Maybe we've got it rocking on our fitness, but our finances are biting the dust. Maybe we've got it rocking in our faith, but our fitness needs some help. Maybe we're strong in family and friends and field, but we've forgotten how to have fun. So bear with me a minute. I just put this together today, and I'm not going to guarantee you all how well it's going to work, but I wanted to show this. So think of the ULA wheel.
I love it, Kate. Oh, Charles, I love it.
And all my little tags are falling off. So it's not, but with all these 7 areas. So if you're pretty balanced, right, your life is going to roll along pretty smoothly, right? If you're unbalanced in some of these areas, when you hit that area, you're going to get a little clunk and it's going to slow you down. If you're out of balance in more than one of these areas, you're going to have more than a couple clunks, right? So the idea is to be sort of as balanced as you can be, right? And to know which areas maybe you need to focus on and grow on.
So one question that I do have for you, Katie, that I was curious about was family, for example. When it's asking the questions about family, should you be thinking of your immediate family, meaning for couples, for example, that have kids? Should they be just looking at them, their spouse, and the children, or they should be looking at answering that question from a holistic family perspective, even the family? So depending on what kind of relationships they have with other members of their family, should they be considering that when they answer between, where they are in family? Do you have a sense for that? Because I paused that to say, I answered it from my immediate family. And then I thought, should I be thinking of it overall, like on a general sense about the whole family?
Okay, if you look at the way ULA views family, it's a set of circles. And the inner circle is your immediate family.
Okay.
If you're married, that's your spouse and your kids. And that should be your total focus. You should not let any other family members affect what happens in that inner circle. Now, if you are, divorced and live with your mom, and there's a husband or a wife that's not in the picture, then to me, that would be my inner circle, right? I wouldn't include my aunts and my uncles. If you look at the questions that they ask, it's like, do you make time for family without phones? And do you have at least one meal a day with the family? So that's not going to include these aunts and uncles and grandma and grandpas who live down the street, or on Sundays. They're not part of that inner circle.
Okay. So, because that was one I was thinking, could you be balanced in that area and still have some kind of, dysfunction or conflict or something with your mother or your father or your sister? Like, do I consider those pieces, not necessarily cousins and stuff, but those pieces of the family when I answer that question? So that's what I kept it to, just in like my immediate family, kids, me, but I'm sure as people go through to answer, some of these thoughts will come up.
Right. No, I would keep it to the inner circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing, why is fun last? Why is fun always the last F?
I don't really, it's really funny because if you listen to these guys, when they talk about, I heard one of them explain there was no specific rhyme or reason as to the order.
Okay. Okay.
He said, really basically, if you look at it, the first 3 have 2 or more syllables in it. And the last ones are one syllable words. And so,
Okay.
so they just were, kind of, that's how they ordered them. So they could then, so they'd be easy to remember, right?
Okay.
Because he said, when you're trying to share this with the world and trying, their goal for this, for these coming years is to have like 1 in 7 people worldwide know about ULA. And they may not know all the ins and outs, but they'll say, I could walk into a bar in Bangladesh and I could say, who's heard of ULA? And 1 in 7 people would raise their hand. So he said, so we had to have a way to just be able to just rattle this off in these little soundbite interviews that you do. So he said, so that's why we did it. He said, basically it was like, he says 2-syllable words and then he'll go, yes, I know family has 3 syllables, but it was 2-syllable words and then 1-syllable words.
Okay.
There's no inherent meaning to the order that they're in.
Or no priority or anything like that. Okay. Yeah. It's just my sense of humor. And I love to have fun. I think it's a very important part in terms of laughter, just enjoyment. You need that to be balanced. Right. So do you want to just go through it and share the screen and show what this looks like and go through it?
Yeah, let's do. I mean, I don't know necessarily that we have to go through all 7, but let's go through a couple because I've got some talking points.
Okay, sure, absolutely. So give me a moment and then we'll share our screen.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I'll chat some more.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is 10 questions in each of the 7 areas. Again, fitness, finance, family, field, which is your career, faith, friends, and fun. It shouldn't take you long. Be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest, it's kind of pointless to do the quiz, right? Don't judge yourself while you're doing the quiz, right? Don't slap a label on you based off of what you have, how you score. Think less of yourself. You're like really low in the area. It's just remember, where you are is just where you are. It's not who you are, right? And I think most of us sort of, when you're thinking about these 7 areas, know the areas that we need to work on, we need to look at, we need to consider.
Okay, so on the ULA site, you can see the screen? Just checking.
Yes.
Okay, so on the ULA site, and we do, as I said, join the Facebook group. I'm going to keep saying that every show. Join the Facebook group because you can get the link in which to go here, or you can search for it as well openly on Google, and it will get you there. But the first thing to do is to put in your name and then an email address, which I have already set up.
And Facebook group again.
The Facebook group is Get Awesome. So simply search for Get Awesome and join the Facebook group. And that way you will get all the units because throughout the year, there'll be other things we'll be adding. And every month we add something new. So this is what we want to do for February to make sure that you check the balance. So what it does is just to run through it, it shows you all the 7 areas. And as you click on each of the 7 areas, we'll just not answer, but as you click, you'll see all the different questions. So, and then it will show you, as you start to do answer, it will show you what is happening with against the wheel, which is Katie's little show and tell of the actual wheel. So here we go. So one of the questions is rate your current health and how do you feel that is? So, I will rate my health at about an 8. I think I'm fairly healthy. Everybody and there's definitely room for improvement. How close are you to your ideal weight? And I think it's pretty much an 8. I'm probably 10 pounds away from my ideal weight. And the last 10 pounds have been killing me. Typical fashion. That's typical fashion. And how often do you exercise? Now, here's the interesting thing. Before COVID, I would have been a 9 in this. Now, with COVID, I literally believe I have dropped to like a 4. Which is terrible, but that's the truth. So when I apply that, look at what happens. Okay. So now, Katie, which one do you want to go to next? You said just do a couple. So
Yeah,
which one do you
let's look at family.
Family? Okay. So there we go. So rate your current family life. Now, this was an interesting one. This made me pause. What do they mean by that? Your current family life, Katie?
Well,
From what perspective? You know what I mean? Like my head kind of leaned when I read this one.
I guess it's from the person who's doing the quizzes perspective. For me, that would be it would mean. I mean, for you, if I was looking at your family, that I would do, an 8 or a 9, right? You're all healthy. You spend time together. You enjoy each other's company.
Yep.
There doesn't seem to be any strife or tension on a consistent basis among members. That to me is how,
Oh, okay. So I see what you mean. So if there was contention or conflict or anything like that, that's what decreases this.
Well, right. Or if you were estranged from a child, or that to me would also decrease that.
Okay. So yeah. So for me, it would be 8 or 9. Let me be, I'm optimistic. So let's do the 9. Family time, I would say it's around an 8. We do spend time, we cook together, we, watch shows together, but then we go off to our own little spaces and do our thing as well. And we respect that. So I think it's about an 8 or 9 there. How does our family function? Go ahead, Katie.
And let me just interject. The questions in the book are a little bit different from this one because in the book it says we eat at least 1 meal per day together as a family. Now, for me, here's what I wanted to point out. I don't live with my family. I live in South Carolina. My family is all up in Michigan. And I'm a single, no kids. So I can't really answer that.
Interesting. So what would you do in that case, Katie?
So in that case, and there was another question on this one. It's, I set aside personal time with my family without phones. No, that's the only way I can spend time with my family is through phones or Zoom calls. So in that case, if there is, and this applies to all 7 areas, if there is a question, and let me stress this, that absolutely does not apply to you. Like in my case, I can't answer that because my family's not here, right? So when you tally your score, see, that's the only thing. I don't know how it works for here if you don't answer the question at all. Because if you're doing it like through the book or if you do it on form, what it does is it tallies your score per F and then divides by 10 since there are 10 questions. And then that gives you your score. There's a question that you can't answer, like in this family category, I would divide by 8. Because there are 2 questions, my family's not here, so I don't spend time with them without a phone. I can't answer that. And I can't change that. And I don't eat at least 1 meal with my family, again, because my family's not here.
Okay.
I would then divide by 8 instead of divide by 10. But that's not pass to like boost your score.
Yeah. So in this situation, if someone who's in that situation would leave it exactly the way it was.
You see, instead of
because there's no non-applicable one.
Right.
Okay. So it's actually, so what you're saying is if they had the book to do it, it would be much more precise because the questions are very much more pointed, right?
Yes.
And as I said, when I was going through some of these, I leaned my head to kind of try to figure out what was meant by that, right? And then I put my own spin on it, or my own interpretation, not my own spin. And then I answered the question.
Right. Well, and that's really what you should do. Just, bear in mind if you're doing it online, since there is something that's, there's, like you said, there's not applicable. If you had to leave those as 1s, your family score would come up low, which is really not a true reflection of it. So you could sort of just mentally, add up your scores in the family and divide it by 8 or divide it by 9. And
Okay.
then just make a note of your score.
Okay.
Instead
And
of
is there guidance on the net somewhere that they, before they take this, that they may be able to just go and read the different like, to say, if you're looking at your life balance test or your wheel, here's some things to consider within the category family finance before you answer, so
Yeah.
they can consider those things and then come and answer to make sure they have the right frame of mind.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's any like sort of pre-talk
Hmm.
on the ULA website.
Okay.
I do know, I think you do get a report with a little more detail efforts, which is why it's asking you for your email, so they can mail you.
Hmm. The other thing I would point out too is on the site, because I have been exploring the site, on the site are blogs, and they have it categorized by different topics. And there is the 7Fs topic, and there's all sorts of different articles about different aspects of the 7Fs.
Mhm.
And I went through a number of those articles, and they are indeed insightful. So that might be another way too for the audience to get a sense of what some of these things mean before they come and do this.
Right. Or, check out, because the test in the ULA wheel and the discussion about ULA wheel, ULA plan, and ULA path are in the back of all 3 of their books.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were ever interested in that, they have, ULA finding balance in an unbalanced world. They have ULA for women, and then ULA for Christians. Are their 3 books so far.
Okay. So is there any other category you want me to touch on then before we stop the sharing? Like, what about faith, for example?
That's exactly the one I was just.
Oh, is that the one you were going to? I think it's important because, people, like you mentioned, they have a book for Christians, but there's so many different types of faiths out there. Maybe you could speak to that in terms of to what degree does ULA encompass other faiths, whether it's Buddha, whether, it's Judaism, whatever. To what degree does ULA encompass those types?
Okay, well, the ULA guys are obviously Christians,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also, believers in you do you, and they fully understand that there are other faiths out there, and that we should all be tolerant and accepting of whatever faith folks have. So I would answer these questions according to your faith. And
Mm-hmm.
really, even in the book, the first question is, I would rate my faith in God and belief in Jesus Christ. Well, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not Christian, I would rate my faith in Allah as,
Right.
my faith in Buddha as. So just substitute whatever your belief is for the God in Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And really, they're firm believers that I'm trying to think of how to word this. That even if you're not religious, that you still need to have some.
Oh, absolutely. I can speak to that actually, Katie, because I do not consider myself religious. I was brought up in the Christian faith, but I do not consider myself at this point in my life to be a religious individual. I consider myself to be a spiritual individual. And from that perspective, I look at the word faith a little bit more from the spiritual side of believing in something and having faith, like what I call blind faith. That means moving forward, trusting that things will fall into place. To me, that's a level of faith that is not necessarily based on religion.
Right.
So
Okay.
when I looked at these questions, how do you feel about your faith? that is how I answered it. I did not necessarily look at it, how do you feel about your Christian faith or
Right.
whatever, right? I looked at from a spiritual belief, how strong is my faith and how do I believe in that faith? So for me, this how do you feel about your faith? It would have been like a 10 for me, right?
And actually, I was reading that question from the Christian one. So the test in the ULA for Christians is more pointed. If you look at the same test in just the regular ULA book,
Mm-hmm.
I would rate my faith, right, which is the same as this, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel connected to a higher purpose.
Oh, absolute feeling of a higher purpose. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a 9 for me.
I am plugged into a faith community, and that's, whatever that means for you, whether it's a meditation group, it's a church, it's a Bible study, it's a women's prayer group, whatever it is, right? That's your faith community. I spend at least 20 minutes a day in prayer and or meditation. So again, they're taking into account not everybody is Christian and not everybody, lives their life according to Jesus Christ, but you do need to have some sense of you need to have a belief in a higher purpose.
Exactly.
Some connection to, like I said, whether it's a church group, a Bible study, a meditation group, whatever it is, you need to have some connection to another group.
And for example, Katie, I consider you an extension of my faith community because we do believe in the same things, right? When it comes to faith and morals and values, it is from that biblical foundation, right? Source. So to me, you're an extension of my community as well. So when I look at faith community, I look even at the extended family and the extended connection to whether it's a church community or a people community, right? But having the same foundational values and morals and guidance. So that's kind of how I look at it as well.
Right. I think that the important thing to remember for everybody out there is there is not a right way or a wrong way to look at this test. It's, again, I'll go back to what they always say, you do you. So it's how you go into this and how you look at these questions, because how you look at these questions and answer them are going to show you what your wheel looks like. Right. And this is not a one and done, because, as we move through this year and we move you from taking what you see on your wheel to doing, a plan and a path, like you do, we do, like, you do mid-year check-in. Like I do this, at least twice a year, just to see, because some of the goals I set are based off of some of the questions on here. So when we get into goal setting, you're going to go back to your wheel, right? And you're going to look at, okay, under fitness, what questions did I rate like at ones or zeros? Because I do them. Okay, so maybe I need to set a goal in that area. If my fitness is really low, let me look at the questions. If I'm struggling for a goal, let me look at the questions on the wheel that I did really crappy on. And maybe that could be my goal, one or two goals.
So one of the things I applied those because I wanted to show, notice for my faith is 9. So it's not bad at all, right? And then but look what creates a clunk on my wheel that Katie, those clunks that slows you down that Katie talked about, is all of a sudden, since COVID, my fitness now has dropped to a 6.67. And all of a sudden you could see visually, even without these other ones filled in, that when that wheel turns, this is a clunk. Right. This is a slowing down point. So I just wanted to show that visual of how that starts to take shape. And so it is a helpful tool to figure out where in your life you need to put some focus to elevate this back up. So this tells me quite visually and very starkly that I need to start putting some effort more so into my fitness to try to at least push it up to where it becomes a little bit more even. Right. So I'm going to, sorry, Katie, I'm going to stop sharing. Is that okay now? Do you think? Yeah. So let's stop sharing. And there we go. So you've got a sense now of just how the wheel works. And hopefully, did we talk about balance sufficiently today, though? Do you want to talk a little bit more about that whole balance piece? Yeah, there you go.
This is mine from probably beginning of last year, middle of last year.
Mhm.
You can see where my little clunks are.
Right.
Despite the fact, I'm pretty well balanced in 4 of the areas. I have some room to improve in 2 of them. And so I have to say that since I cut this down and cut it really small, I can't tell you. I know that fitness and finance were my lower ones, and just based off of the questions, I know exactly why they were low.
Right.
And I'll share with you. My fitness was low because I don't eat balanced meals, and I know I don't eat balanced meals. And I eat a lot of processed foods. So I know that it was my diet mainly that caused my low score under fitness. Under finance, it was because I don't do a budget, and I don't have a will. So those were 2 questions that I really basically had to score myself 0 on, because I just flat out don't have them. So that's why my finance was low. So then when I looked at my goals, those fed right into my goals. Now, we hear a lot about balance, and we hear a lot about striving for work-life balance. And I don't know that there necessarily is such a thing. I mean, the idea is to take all of these 7 areas and to know that they all are important, and to also realize that sometimes you will have what they call a season out of balance, where if you are drowning in debt, and you want to get your hands around it and you want to pay that down, well, that may mean taking another job. It may mean making some sacrifices. So you may have a season or seasons, depending on how out of debt you are, that are out of balance. But having said that, know that that's okay, because you got a goal, right? And you were trying to get one of your F's, which is out of control, back in balance, right? It's sort of like the spinning plates, right? You can't, at the circus, right? You can get them all going, but at some point in time, you're going to have to go back to the first ones and spin them again, right? And then you're going to have to go, oh, now this one's out, right? So you're going to have to, continually visit all of these areas. Just the main goal is to wake up every day and just to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday, right? And didn't Virginia Woolf write a book about 4 rooms?
I'm not familiar with that one.
I keep thinking A Room with a View, but it was about, and I think it goes back to that, the physical, mental, spiritual, that you have to go into all of those rooms, throughout the course of a day, a week, or something, because then things will get totally out of balance. You can't ignore fun at the expense of field, because if you're ignoring one of your F's, it will have a ripple effect on all your other F's, and it will slow you down. You'll have that clunk in your wheel, right?
It's called A Room of One's Own, Katie.
Okay.
That's what the Virginia Woolf book is, A Room of One's Own.
Okay. I'm thinking that, I don't think that was the book I was thinking of, but it's
okay. But that's one of her books.
I had it struck in my mind that it was a Virginia Woolf book, but
okay. It may not be.
But it's about, 4 rooms, and they were like, it was a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Right.
And that you have to spend time in all those rooms. So just think, you have to spend time in all of these 7 F's, not necessarily every day. So the idea is to, again, not get so wrapped up in, I've done my 15 minutes of physical. Now I need fitness. Now I need to go and spend 15 minutes in finance. And, no, that's not the point.
Absolutely. And for me, I believe that, I don't know about emotional. I'm like Tony Robbins. I believe people have to manage emotional and keep it at bay because it can take you down such a wrong road. But definitely the mind, the mind, body, and spirit, because you're looking at your brain, your heart, and your soul. So I think those three need to be in balance, and as much as possible as you can, because they are three dimensions. Every human has these three dimensions to themselves, and that is what, if you're too much on the physical but you're not looking after the mental and the spirit, you're out of balance. So you need to try to get them to as equal a state as you possibly can. And so I think that all ties in. And ULA covers a lot more than that, because it looks at finance and some of these other essential things that we need to look at and manage. And as long as we try to manage those things, nobody's perfect. Yeah, we're not looking for 100% in all those areas. But as Katie says, we need to recognize that they are indeed important areas, and to be aware of where they fit in our lives and how we're working on them. If you're spending all your money, or you're gambling away all your money, then you're going to have challenges. That's just common sense to some extent, right?
Right.
So so the whole aim of February, because as we go through the year, we're going to keep building on everything that we are talking on. It's just a step by step process we're taking you through. So for February, what we want you to focus on is to become aware of these, start to think about all these areas of your life and where you are, and take stock of where you are in that. And if something falls short that's important to you, then that goes into your planning to say, how will I raise that? So for me, for fitness, I now am left to ask myself, how am I going to stay on top of my fitness in the way I always had? So that's the question I have for myself, and I've got to plan it out. I've got to just take action and do something about it. So I don't know what more we can say about that.
Right. For right now, don't set any expectations on yourself. Just go and honest answer. Do the Ula Wheel quiz, and it'll point out. I mean, you may be really strong in family, right, and family and faith, but it'll point out, like she said, she looked at her fitness. Well, now, in March, when we talk about setting goals, all she's going to have to do is to go back and look at what questions did she answer with like a 1 or a 2, and that'll give her, okay, I need to start.
Well, and it is very impactful for me. That's what I wanted to communicate when I deliberately wanted to look at fitness and show that, because for someone that's always in the gym, lifting weights, doing HIIT programs, yoga programs, and has been doing that for I don't know how many years, to suddenly be hit that I can't go to the gym, I can't necessarily take those programs, is not working for me at home. I've got to figure out a new way to make this part of my lifestyle. But what was stark for me is looking at that question and knowing that a year ago it would have been a 10, a 9. And now, remember you said, be honest with yourself. I'm down to like a 4, and it probably is a little less than that. But that was stark for me. That was humbling. That was like, say what? So
Right.
I've got to, and it really resonated. You can't just sit and go, okay, well, COVID, I'll wait till COVID's over. No, it's because COVID's going longer, not very long. You've got to now figure it out and get back on track. So that's what we're hoping, if you're honest with yourself, that going through this exercise is going to make you just kind of shake you up a bit and go, oh, I know I've been kind of procrastinating or pushing that off. I probably should bring it back more into the forefront of my line, my lens to manage. So that's what that will do with you. So what we'll do, we're going to start to wrap up. So our next show, which is the accountability check-in show, is on the 24th of February, which is also, I know.
You said I was like reaching for my calendar.
I said I gotta get. You see, I'm managing. I'm saying I gotta manage this every morning. So it's on the 24th of February. Same back time, same back channel. So Wednesday at 8 p.m. So join us, and we're going to check. We do it because I want, we'll talk about just checking that you've done it. What were your thoughts? So hopefully you'll join us and give us those feedback. And if not, Katie and I'll talk some more about this and what things that we're looking at and what the next show looks like. So, Katie, you want to take us out?
As always, remember to be grateful, have faith, and go get your ULA life. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And with that, we will say good night.
Good night, all.